All right, here with our panel, Terry Austin, Tony Samuel, Martin Sweet, and Laura Wilson. Laura, I'll start with you. Potentially another setback here for the governor if the Bears deal doesn't work out. But he's also got a couple big decisions on his plate soon on extending the gas tax pause, which he says he's likely to do. And he may also face some new questions about whether he'd support medical marijuana now that the federal government has changed the way it's classified. Perhaps a couple big issues on the horizon here for a governor who's dealt with some setbacks lately.
Really and truly. And I think with regards to the Bears issues, the governor and the state of Indiana did everything they could. We don't know how that's going to end yet, of course, but I think you put the good effort forward. The place where the governor really does have some control over here is with regards to the gas tax. And in particular, it's going to be really important because we'll see a 6-cent shift. April's gallon, cents per gallon is at 17.2, but that's going to increase to 23.3 cents per gallon in May, just this upcoming week. And I think that's one thing that people will be looking at the governor for the leadership. People are hurting at the pump, and that 30-day suspension on gas tax was helpful, but it's getting ready to expire. You also mentioned medical marijuana, and really the question of how the governor and the state wants to deal with this now that we've seen the reclassification on the federal level will be important in terms of policy for Braun to address as well.
Yeah, Martin, all of this happening here as the governor backs a number of primary challengers who are going up against state lawmakers who opposed redistricting, even as we saw the vote in Virginia this week, bringing back the debate here in Indiana in some fashion. But while all of these challengers have been well funded, that may or may not get them across the finish line here next month.
Right. I mean, the idea is that incumbents typically win elections, right? Particularly in a primary. And so we don't expect many of these incumbents to lose. And so to the extent that we're going to be judging Governor Braun, sort of understanding whether President Trump is successful here, really, I think the bar is fairly low, right? I think probably maybe if two incumbents who voted against redistricting are taken out, that would actually be a pretty large accomplishment. I mean, I'm not really sure that the governor here is particularly determinative, right? I don't think there are people that are sort of waiting on the governor's endorsement to decide how to vote. I think the president might possibly be able to bring some people out. People might be motivated, particularly in a primary. The kind of people who are going to be voting may be the ones most susceptible to the president's message.
Tony, why do some of these primary challengers seem to be struggling, even with the backing of the president and the governor? Are those coattails not what they used to be with everything else going on?
Actually, I'm hearing the opposite in some of these races. In the Jim Buck race, in the Spencer Deary race, and in the Greg Walker race, I'm hearing they're all behind, and they're all behind because of the amount of money that's being poured into these ads to remind voters of of their actions in the state house here lately. And so couple that with now you're seeing negative ads coming from those three incumbents against their opponents, and that makes sense. Also, the folks that are running the campaigns for the incumbents are stretched so thin because they've got so many challengers. The president's focused really hard on 6 races where he's trying to knock out incumbents, and so a lot of money is being spent there. But also there's others. There's different PACs and other groups, Prosperity for Indiana, Turning Point USA. You've got Senator Jim Banks and Attorney General Todd Rokita working on this. A lot of money being spent, and a lot of that will intensify. So I think you will see a couple of incumbents lose. I think that number 3 to 4, and it's a big success for the president and the folks that are trying to knock these incumbents out. We'll see.
Terry, how do you see all of this from across the aisle, and what are you watching for in the primary next month?
Well, one of the major things that I'll be looking for, and I know other Democrats will too, is the amount of voter turnout that previously may have gone for Trump, that they have decided to pull a Democratic ballot this time. We're seeing those swings all across the country. And I won't expect Indiana to be any different, whether it's that great or not, 20 percentage points, we don't know. The other thing is, I'm not sure endorsements really mean a lot. I will say that the dark money that's coming into our state, and this isn't the first time it's come in over the last couple of cycles significantly, can really influence outcomes. But at the same time, it also has a very negative effect on not just the candidates, but the institution as well.
Yeah. Laura, what do you make of what we just saw with the redistricting vote in Virginia and the lingering effects of the redistricting debate that we're still seeing here in our primaries?
You know, one of the things that was interesting, Dan, in Virginia is Abigail Spanberger won the race for governor as a Democrat back in November by fairly wide margins. And Tuesday's election results show that redistricting was much smaller, indicating that there were Democrats who supported Spanberger, voters who supported Spanberger, but didn't agree with redistricting. And I think you can draw that parallel in Indiana. We noticed a lot of those challengers seeking to unseat the incumbent Republican senators who opposed redistricting back in December here. They may be running because of redistricting, but they've really shifted the messaging, the focus in their campaign. They're talking about being more conservative as a Republican primary candidate, and they're talking about a wide range of issues. So they're not just running on redistricting. I think the fact that they're really broadening their campaign speaks to the fact that they recognize redistricting may not be the end all be all for voters, though we would certainly say this primary is still a referendum on that decision.
Martin, what's your overall sense of where things landed with this entire redistricting battle nationwide this election year? Did it backfire on Republicans somewhat?
Well, I don't think it's really backfired. I mean, remember the expected value of the number of seats that would be gained by the Republicans is a loss, right? The president's party always loses seats in a midterm election, other than three sort of random, very event-specific driven times in our history. The president's party loses seats in the midterms. So in many ways, this was kind of a Hail Mary effort. And to the extent that there are that it stems some of the losses, or that there perhaps is a small gain, that would be absolutely huge. So I don't think we could actually claim that this is really sort of a loss, or that things have backfired, given the stakes here and given how clever and sort of novel this solution was.
Tony, was it worth it for Republicans?
Well, what I would say is the Republicans and Trump voters have to get out, even though they don't normally get out as much with as much intensity in the midterms, but you'd hope that they will. And Trump's going to do a national convention, I believe. So I think it can still be a good year, and I think Republicans can still hold on to the House. Let's hope it doesn't come down to one or two seats, and then there would be a really dark cloud hanging over Indiana for quite a while.
Finally, Terry, some news this week in Indianapolis. Another candidate in the race for mayor next year, State Senator Andrea Hunley, announces that she's officially running, but we still don't know yet what Mayor Hogsett is going to do. This could be a really interesting primary in 2027. We're not even done with 2026 yet.
That's true. This is an early jump for both of these candidates. They're both outstanding people and have a lot to offer, but it still remains to be seen whether Joe Hogsett intends to run. He's continued to hold fundraisers. He's got a pretty significant war chest, and it's only he knows what his future plans are going to be.
All right, we've got to leave it there. Our thanks to the panel. We'll be back with much more after this.